Britain is one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every year of the Formula One World Championship. Long may it continue. It is a circuit of speed, history and drama. It's Silverstone, it's the British Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years with Turn 1, now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Richards lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Ocon, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Liam Lawson, Doohan, Norris, Stroll, Sainz, Albon, Gasly, Sargent, Teo Porcher, Hauger, Tsunoda, Bottas, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Perez and Zhou Guanyu. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Let's talk about Richards. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going. Launch lap is good, but we need to learn the gears, so go into each one when you can. We're going to need some work on the brakes, so put some energy into them and warm the tyres as well, please. Copy. Superb parking there, mate. Let's make sure we get the edge on the surrounding drivers as the lights go out. Okay, so that's the rest of the grid forming up now. Be patient and watch for those lights. Verstappen behind you now. No rain expected, no rain expected for the time being. Okay, dry seem like the best tyre for now. Verstappen's behind. Okay, gap to the car behind. 1.7 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres are just 1 lap old. We think they've got 1 more stop. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 36.5. Gap to your teammate behind is 5.7 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. They're in 11th. And the time last lap was a 1:40.4. Confirmed. Got that confirmed. Verstappen behind you now. Okay, car behind trailing us, 3.2 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres are 3 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1 minute 32.6. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. We've got a lot of spare energy, okay to use your overtake button. Ocon behind. Okay, push, gap to the car behind, 4.5 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards, their tyres are 5 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Your last lap time was a 1:32.4. Repeat that, I've got some interference here. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 10.7 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards, they're in 11th. And the time last lap was a 1 minute 33.0. Okay, no issues with the tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. Verstappen's behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 3.4 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres are 6 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1:31.8. Great work, that's a new fastest lap of the race. Verstappen behind you now. Our gap behind is 4.8 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres are 8 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Your last lap time was a 1:32.4. Russell behind. Okay, the gap behind is 6.1 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres are 8 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. And the time last lap was a 1:32.2. behind us is 5.4 seconds. Okay, Russell's behind you now. We're leading the car behind by 5.3 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres are 11 laps old now. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1 minute 32.2. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. Okay, copy that. Conditions look stable at the moment, no rain currently expected. Dries definitely seem like the fastest tyre at the moment. doing one more stop today. One stop left in this strategy. You've got 18 laps until your pit window opens. Russell behind. Okay, gap to the car behind. Car behind. 5.9 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Their tyres at 13 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Your last lap time was a 1:32.4. Information on Porsche. Okay, it looks like the problem's terminal. They're retiring the car. Yellow flag. Okay, be aware there's an incident in the next part of the track. No overtaking through the yellow flags. Okay, car behind trailing us. 7.6 seconds. The track is clear, green flag. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, push, gap to the car behind. 5.4 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Okay, they've done 15 laps on those tyres. We think they've got one more stop. And the time last lap was a 1:32.4. Jack's in the pits. Jack in the pits. behind you. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 6.9 seconds. Okay, they're on old hard tyres. Their tyres are 16 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1:32.2. That's Sainz behind you now. Our gap behind is 16.8 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 18 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. Your last lap time was a 1:33.3. First position, front of the pack. Okay, Sainz is behind you. Okay, the gap behind is 17.0 seconds. They're on old mediums. And that's 13 laps now until your pit window's open. 34 laps to go. Okay, there are 45 laps of fuel remaining. Albon behind you, and the gap behind us is 20.0 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 20 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. And the time last lap was a 1:32.9. They're on fresh mediums. They're in 13th place. Time last lap was a 1:32.3. Albon behind. We're leading the car behind by 21.9 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, they've done 22 laps on those tyres. We think they've got one more stop. Your last lap time was a 1:33.4. You only have to stop once now, one stop left. Your pit window opens in 8 laps time. Tyre condition still looking good. Okay, be careful. We think you're going to start losing some tyre grip any time now. Okay, one stop to go. Just one stop left in this strategy. Your pit window opens in 8 laps time. Okay, gap to the car behind. 27.3 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 8 laps old, and the time last lap was a 1 minute 30.8. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, car behind trailing us, 27.0 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Time last lap was a 1:30.8. Russell behind. Okay, push. Gap to the car behind. 26.6 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. The last lap time was a 1 minute 31.2. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 27.2 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 11 laps old now, and the time last lap was a 1:31.6. Alright, we'll be doing one more stop today. One stop left in this strategy. Your pit window is going to open in 3 laps time. Pit window opens in 3 laps. Understood, copy that. Russell behind. Our gap behind is 27.5 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 12 laps old. Time last lap was a 1:31.4. We're approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, the gap behind is 27.5 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 13 laps old. Your last lap time was a 1:31.7. Probably dropping due to wear, so don't be too aggressive. In this lap, push now. Russell behind, and the gap behind us is 27.3 seconds. They're on old mediums, and the time last lap was a 1 minute 31.7. Sainz is the fastest man on track right now. He's just posted the quickest lap of the race. Sainz is the fastest man on track right now. He's just posted the quickest lap of the race. Copy that.
It looks like the pit crew are out in the lane and ready to perform their magic on the car. They're going to be aiming to achieve the fastest pit stop time possible.
Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. Okay, you're sat in P2. Okay, Russell's ahead. They're on old mediums. Ocon behind. We're leading the car behind by 25.4 seconds. They're on old mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. You've got 20 laps left until the end. Didn't receive that. Repeat the message. Repeat the message. Gap to your teammate behind is 51.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. They're in 10th place. Time last lap was a 1:31.8. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 31.7 seconds. They're on old mediums. They're in 10th place. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 32.2. You're leading the pack, that's P1. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, gap to the car behind. 1.9 seconds. They're on old mediums. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Okay, 18 laps to go. And that's 26 laps of fuel remaining. Russell behind. Okay, car behind trailing us, 3.7 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 19 laps old, and the time last lap was a 1:31.2. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. Gap to your teammate behind is 35.3 seconds. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, push, gap to the car behind. 7.9 seconds. They're on old mediums. They've done 21 laps on those tyres. Time last lap was a 1 minute 31.7. They're on old mediums. They're in 10th place. Your last lap time was a 1:32.3. Russell behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 9.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, they've done 22 laps on those tyres. And the time last lap was a 1:31.6. Right, drop your speed. Our delta's too low and we're going to risk a penalty. Slow your pace immediately. Okay, safety car deployed. Safety car's been deployed. Watch your delta. Make sure you keep it positive as we catch the pack. Okay, there have been further incidents on the track, so officials are moving to a full safety car. Full safety car. You're in first position, front of the pack. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Our gap behind is 12.2 seconds. They're on old mediums. Look after these tyres now if you want to finish the race on this compound. 13 laps to go. You're approaching the safety car, you're leading, so don't pass it. Stay behind the safety car. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 43.2 seconds. They're on old mediums. They're in 10th place. Time last lap was a 1:41.0. There are 20 laps of fuel left. You're leading the pack, that's P1. Russell behind, less than a second separates you. They're on old mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now, and 11 laps to go. Okay, fuel levels now at 19 laps. 19 laps. Okay, the safety car's coming in this lap. We'll be pacing the field in sector 3. Make sure to respect the delta until the safety car's into the pit lane. Flag. Let's use overtake and burn off some of this energy. Okay, the gap behind is 2.0 seconds. Gap to your teammate behind is 9.2 seconds. They're on old mediums. They're in 10th place. Your last lap time was 2 minutes 26.1. now enabled DRS. DRS is now online. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 12.5 seconds. You're in first position, front of the pack. Okay, Russell's behind you now, and the gap behind us is 4.9 seconds. They're on old mediums. That was our last stop, no more scheduled pit stops. Let's go, and that's 8 laps to go. Russell behind. We're leading the car behind by 7.3 seconds. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 29 laps old, and the time last lap was a 1 minute 31.6. That's P1. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, gap to the car behind. 7.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. All right, 6 laps to go now. 13 laps of fuel remaining. gap to your teammate behind is 22.0 seconds. You're in first position, front of the pack. Russell behind. Okay, car behind trailing us, 10.7 seconds. They're on old mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 4 laps remaining. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, push, gap to the car behind. 10.7 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, their tyres are more than 30 laps old. Time last lap was a 1:31.7. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 23.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. They're in 10th place. Your last lap time was a 1:32.0. You're leading the pack, that's P1. Russell behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 10.5 seconds. They're on old mediums. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Come on, just 3 laps to go. 3 laps. Final lap. Push. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Our gap behind is 11.6 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, their tyres are more than 30 laps old, and the time last lap was a 1:31.7. race wins in a row. What a fantastic result. Well done.
Here we are then, a fantastic British Grand Prix, and what a performance it was from our race winners today. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
Well, what a thrilling end to an incredible Grand Prix weekend. Our top three finishers should be incredibly happy with what they were able to achieve out there today. So let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. The gap at the top of the championship has been cut down after a difficult race for our championship leader. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Richards.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.